Ladies and gentlemen, we are live here on the Chase's Sports News YouTube channel, and this will also be an episode of the Cool Sports Network afterwards. Today, we have a very, very special guest, an 8-year NBA veteran, mostly for the Sacramento Kings, the longest tenured Sacramento Kings player while in Sacramento in the franchise's history, and a current assistant coach for the Sioux Falls Skyforce, the Miami Heat G League affiliate, Jason Thompson. Jason, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
What's going on, Chase? Thanks for having me, man. How you been?
I've been good. How about you? I'm glad glad we're able to connect.
For sure. It's been a minute since last time we talked. It was a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was on the Student Sports Network channel, part of Play-by-Play Camps. But now we're over here on Chase's Sports News. I'm glad we are able to connect. Let's first get the audience to know a little bit about yourself. When did you realize you even wanted to be a basketball player or a basketball coach or somewhere kind of involved in this industry or in this space? And what has been your career path since to get to this point? You've had a very successful career, so let's hear about it.
So you're saying that what made me want to be a basketball player, or what made me want to become a coach?
Maybe both. Just kind of what made you get interested in this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like as a kid, I started to play all sports when I was young. I think the main one was soccer. I feel like that's the best one to do to see if you're athletic or not. And, I had a lot of success and I had some fun. And then I was playing baseball, basketball. My mom wouldn't let me play football. So I just, try to do as many sports. I did track, I did cross country.
Very fitting, by the way, mom's not letting you play football. I feel like I've heard this one before.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, she's running the show. Even though I had dreams of being a wide receiver of the Jerry Rices of the world and Randy Mosses and things of that nature. But then eventually in middle school, started playing basketball all year round in 7th grade. Part of me wanted to make that team as a 7th grader, I did cross country just so I could be in the best shape possible. Made the team. It was only me and another 7th grader, and everyone else was in 8th. And the rest is history. Where I went to high school, grew 9 inches in high school. Was a late bloomer. I was 6'8". I was 5'11" my freshman year, 6'3" my sophomore year, 6'6" my junior year, and 6'8" my senior year. So I was a guard for most of my career. Then my last 2 years, I was power forward and center. I still was.
You say late bloomer. I'm sure a lot of us would love to be 5'11" in our freshman year.
Right.
I'm sitting here I'm sitting here at 5'2" on a good day, maybe with high shoes on. And, I'm jealous.
I just feel like when you're in the AAU circuits and stuff like that, now you see guys with 7 feet in 7th grade. So at 5'11", I was kind of around there around my peers on the team, and then stopped growing, and then like I said, grew more inches and just had to be a center. It actually helped me out just so I can, develop my game a little bit more. But I was only 190. So that's why I was getting recruited by mid-major schools, just because I needed to put on more weight and they wanted me to redshirt. And I went to Rider and just wanted to develop and was close to home.
Yeah, you did do a lot with Rider. And it's actually a great segue into my next question, because you're one of the all-time leading scorers in Rider history. You're considered possibly the best player in the program's history. Now, I know you currently coach for the Miami Heat G League affiliate, the Sioux Falls Skyforce, and we're going to talk about that, but you also recently coached for Rider as an assistant coach for their men's basketball team. I just got to ask, how did it feel to be back with the organization? I'm sure maybe felt a little weird. Obviously, that was kind of the program where you really grew and became the player that a lot of people know you as, becoming a lottery pick for Sacramento. So how did it feel to really be back with Rider and help them achieve success?
It was good. I mean, I feel like I was kind of just, a coach or a mentor, even when I was still playing. I would come back maybe a week or two in my off seasons and stuff like that. And my brother had went there the last 2 years, so I was seeing him. And then, still had a great relationship, with the school. And then eventually I donated some money to upgrade and for them to get a practice facility. So, not being that, being that close, I was like, you might as well, do some of my all-season training there. And then, the guys started gravitating to me with how organized everything was. Obviously, the longevity and the success that I've had at Rider and as a pro. And then, like I said, then the coaches had seen how, I was great with them and their development and helping them out. trying to teach them to become a pro and be a great college basketball player. So they're like, hey, when your career is done, we would love to have you on the staff. So that's where it kind of went. And then when I was done, I just wanted to, keep up the tradition. And obviously it's a different type of passion when it's somewhere where you have blood, sweat, and tears for 4 years that I did and had success where I did as well.
You did have a lot of success there, and it kind of led you into the NBA career that you had, where you were a starter for the Sacramento Kings. Again, longest tenured Kings player in Sacramento, and we're going to talk about that. But your current, not head coaching, an assistant coaching job that you really just recently got a few weeks ago with the Sioux Falls Skyforce. Excuse me. It's a G League team, not a college team. So it kind of a little bit of a promotion for you as well, an assistant coach with the Skyforce. How is your job different though from when you were at college? What were your responsibilities as an assistant and writer compared to what you do now with the Skyforce?
I think has some similarities, obviously some differences as well. I think that, with me being assistant and writer, I didn't really do the day-to-day when it comes to, the study halls and schoolwork and those of that sort. I was doing player development. So I was more of making sure, their diet was good, making sure they're getting the right conditioning, making sure their workout regimens and stuff that they needed to do, making sure that they're doing their stuff in the weight room as well too, with mental health and all those sorts. So I think it's a different mindset when you have to worry about class rather than when you're a pro. That is your job. It's a job, right? Like, even though you're getting paid NIL college-wise, but, if your grades are not good, then you can't play. Rather than pro-wise, no one really cares what you got going on off the court. You're getting paid to play for that team, representing yourself and that team and organization. If you don't listen, then they'll get someone else that will. If you're not performing, they'll get someone else that will. That's a little bit different than college because, with pro, that can happen within a week or two, right? If you get into it. College, since you're on scholarship, you got to at least wait at least until the semester or I would at least say until, the season is over.
So I guess a little bit more intense, you could say, in the G League in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, well, also too, like for Sioux Falls, we have the most call-ups in the G League the past 2 seasons. So we have a great relationship with the Miami Heat, regardless of the location. So they want us to do the same things that they do. Obviously the Miami Heat have a great tradition of the culture and what they do on and off the court and their success of them having successive championships and NBA Finals appearances and Eric Spoelstra and that Heat culture with Pat Riley. So the same stuff that they do in Miami, we do here because if they do need one of our players, then they need to be ready. They need to fly from South Dakota to Miami and be ready to play regardless if it's fair or not.
You mentioned kind of the whole NIL market and how college basketball is so different these days. You mentioned how you can kind of switch players out at the end of the year, and a lot of players do switch out. I mean, more than ever, players are entering the transfer portal. They're demanding NIL money from schools. College athletes are now being treated like pros. They're getting paid like pros and now have the power of pros as well. And it's this whole thing. I talked about it with a few different college reporters and how it's not just a simple sports thing. It's like a legal government thing as well with how we're seeing with can they be professionals and all these different types of things. But as a coach, I'm sure it makes your job harder. How did you handle kind of this new era of college basketball, significant roster turnover year over year?
It's really tough. Obviously, with me being able to play and having success, college and pro wise is, somewhat, I have a lot of respect. I get a lot of respect from the players, but also too, it's sometimes tough to relate because, if I did get NIL when I was playing, if you're telling me that if North Carolina or Duke or Kansas wasn't giving me NIL money for my last 2 years, I'd be lying to you if I wasn't thinking about going there. So my story would have been different as well too. So it definitely changes the dynamic of how college basketball was. If you want to look at it for the good, for the better, or for the worse, I do think that players should get paid. I wish I got paid, from the amount of money that I was making for the school. But, like I said, it's an era that you have to try to learn. And I think that that's why you see the great coaches and Coach K and Roy Williams and the coach from Virginia, Jay Wright, all these schools, or
Yeah.
all these great coaches could probably still be coaching, like, how those the John Woodens of the world, those many years, the Bob Knights of the world, those many years. But I just feel like how it's changed is just hard for them to fathom, because they don't really have any power, and players can leave whenever they want.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Bennett for Virginia literally just left like a month and a half before the
Yeah.
season, and he essentially said like he couldn't take this anymore. And you mentioned some of the other coaches. Jay Wright's a perfect example of this. Even Nick Saban over on the football side, I think a lot of the rumors surrounding them were just that they could not handle this new era of college basketball. The people who can, the Dan Hurleys of the world, they're really succeeding right now. But then there
Yeah.
are really some others who just can't handle that, and
Mhm.
some coaches have essentially kind of given up on that. But now, as a coach, you now have the perspective what it's like to be a player, what it's like to be a coach, both at the collegiate and the professional level. Now, as you work with the Skyforce, when we spoke last, you mentioned how playing with 7 different coaches in Sacramento was really, really hard to adjust to. Because remember, you played 8 seasons in the NBA, had 7 different coaches, specifically in Sacramento. That must have been very, very tough. So now, as a coach, how important do you think it is for these coaches and the players to build a relationship with each other? And now you mentioned college basketball. Players are going year after year. They can't do that. What do you think is the importance of building that relationship between the coach and the
I
player?
think it's real important. I think it's one of the reasons why I signed here. It's one of the I was here. I had signed, I think, in August, so I had been in Miami for a couple of months, just seeing how things were, so that we can do the same things they do here with the Skyforce. So that culture, and seeing how many guys would stay, working with the coaches, if it's individuals, and
Right.
how they're there just like it was during the season. You wouldn't even think it would be the off season, because they're treating it like so. So yeah, I mean, like you said, I had 7 coaches and 7 seasons in SAC. I had 2 coaches in Golden State with Luke Walton and Steve Kerr, and then I had my last coach, which would be 8, 9, 10, and then my 10th coach was Dwayne Casey with Toronto. So, like I said, those situations are tough, because it's more of a survival and acceptance rather than fit and program wise. Because if it doesn't work for a season and it's still the same system, then you can still see if it can work, especially if you have a great relationship with the coaches and the players. So I feel like it is important to have success. I think that's why sometimes, people say guys are lucky, but, you do have guys that are lucky if you go to the right system, if you go to the right team. Sometimes guys are too immature to go on young teams. They need to go on, more veteran teams. For instance, like Rob Dillingham, I think out of Kentucky, he was with Minnesota. I'm not sure if he's playing that much, but he's on a veteran team, right? A team that had just went to the Western Conference Finals. So he doesn't have to go to a team and try to develop and try to become a star early on. He could develop his game and then develop it with veteran guys. But like a guy like Alex Sarr from the Wizards has to come right in, or even the guy from the Hawks has to come right in and try to help their team win, but while developing as well, which is not the easiest of processes if you don't have veteran guys or coaches that may believe in you as well too. Which, a lot of people say, hey, being a professional is one of the best jobs in the world. And it is, but there's just so much other things that people don't understand, where it has to do with luck, with fit. But most importantly, the organization believing in you.
So I also have a podcast, Wiz Talk with Chase, where I talk about the Wizards. You mentioned Alex Sarr. It is a tough load on him, because you could tell everyone wants him to be the star, but he's also not polished yet, and that wasn't the goal kind of going into it. And I think a lot of these college players now, with this new movement, they're also going as freshmen. They want to immediately go to the NBA. They're spending 1 year in college, and then they're going, a few of these guys that are going to do so. You're looking at Ace Bailey, Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, all these other guys currently in college basketball. Great question here from one of our biggest viewers, Connor Long. Jason, Mason, who do you view as this top prospect for the 2025 class? I don't know how much you follow. Do you see it as Ace Cooper Flag, or do you see it as Dylan Harper? Which are you most excited to see?
I mean, right now, obviously all the buzz is going to Cooper Flag and the stuff that he's done with USA basketball. I think that a lot of it has to do with, him and the success of Duke players as being number one picks. Look at Paolo Banchero and his success early on as well too, and just the development and him kind of just being a man against boys, early on in college. Obviously, there's talent throughout. No offense compared to the draft that we just had last year. So, if I had to pick, I would pick Cooper. But like I said, the season, just started today. And, I've seen some highlights and stuff like that too. So, but I think also too, it's going to, some people take the best talent overall, but then they also pick fit as well too, right? And say, for instance, someone needs a point guard. Do you take the best available, which I think most teams would, or do you take like a point guard instead, right? Back in the day, it was Shaquille O'Neal and Patrick Ewing and all those number one picks. And then you have the number one picks of Derrick Rose and John Wall, and it was the point guard era. So I just feel like every year it's going to be a different aspect depending on the talent, because you don't have the LeBron James of the world or Victor Wembanyama's of the world that you're picking regardless.
And I think a lot of this is the versatility, right? You mentioned all these great players. Victor Wembanyama, he's 7'5", averages 2.5 blocks a game, and can shoot and dribble at the perimeter. It's very rare that you see that. So when you see a Cooper Flag, a guy who's 6'9", kind of, I'm sure when you were growing up, that was, okay, this is a guy who will be in the post, be getting rebounds. Like the way the NBA is played currently has just completely changed. You have to be so much more versatile. And you were. Last time we spoke, you mentioned how you even played some small forward in your rookie year. You were a power forward, but then you also spent some time at center. I think a guy that you played with that I think showed his versatility a ton was DeMarcus Cousins. He's a guy who can play from the perimeter, a guy who can shoot from the perimeter. What did you learn from him, playing with him for so many years, that allowed you to, or helped you kind of become more versatile in your play style?
Yeah, I mean, I always say Cuz was one of the most talented players that I've seen and been around. Maybe it wasn't one of the easiest teammates to get along with. I think some of the stuff that they say is more true than people think. But, I think for just like myself, it was tough for him as well, because he really didn't have that stability of a coach that maybe kind of helped him or made him mature faster. He became an all-star, but it never was around like how De'Aaron Fox was an all-star or Sabonis was an all-star with winning attached to it as well too, or becoming a leader, on a winning team. So, like I said, I think that if you had big men that could stretch the floor and stuff like that, it was, obviously a plus. But nowadays, I feel like if you're not a rim running big or a shot blocking big, you have to be like a Chet Holmgren that could, stretch the floor, guard 1 through 5, play switch defense, and have that especially with his type of frame where, you're not playing bully ball and stuff like that, rather than back in the day where, had the DeAndre Jordans of the world, the Clint Capellas, those rim running guys that may not have been the most skillful, but they're going to block shots and rebound the ball at a high level.
100%. I think this era of versatility, big men dribbling the ball, these small ball lineups, it all kind of started with Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. They kind of revolutionized the way offenses are run. Obviously, Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, that whole crew. Then Kevin Durant, Boogie Cousins, once he got there. You got to play with Curry and the Warriors during their 73-win season, most wins in NBA history. For 28 games, you went 24-4 in those games. And I'm sure you could even say, well, I'm sure you made an impact. Probably didn't take much. Again, one of the greatest teams of all time. So what about that team made them able to have so much success, both on the court and off the court, and do things that we've really never seen before?
Well, I think one was just that they had the formula for winning, right? Just coming off the championship the year before, And they pretty much had everyone back except David Lee, which I guess I had taken his place. I think he had retired after that, if I'm not mistaken. So, I feel like that's a big thing where, you don't lose guys to free agencies and contracts and stuff like that. Regardless if Coach Kerr was coaching at the time, Luke Walton kind of took over. He still was there as well. And guys were just, feeling good. It's one thing too, where you have the monkey off your back, I'm sure, for most of those guys that had played together, even with the Mark Jackson years, where, they had the same core group of guys, and eventually found a way to win. So they had the monkey off their back, and obviously, going into a training camp relaxed, helps you prepare for, a new season. So all those guys were relaxed. I never seen such a guys, that, loved each other on and off the court. Obviously it was all business and practice, but, you're playing music through most of it. And then when it was time to grind, then we were grinding. And then on the road where, most guys may do your thing or whatever, these guys were like, hey, we're all going to a restaurant, bring your family and friends, you better be there type stuff, which, like I said, is a big thing when you have that type of core, because it will translate, from off the court to on the court, kind of how like Oklahoma City is, where, they have their post-game interviews.
Yeah.
And they're all together, where everyone thinks it's all funny and cool, but that actually is translating to them, on how they play, and that's how tight of a group they are. So if you know that guys are like brothers and it's not just a business, it makes the game fun, but also it's fun to win as well.
We appreciate all the support on this episode, Jason. We appreciate you coming on today. We have a caller here again. He asked a question earlier, but one of our biggest viewers, Connor Long of Jet X Factor. You're already doing some great things as a young announcer. Connor, welcome to the show.
Chase, thanks so much for having me. And Jason, great to talk to you. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. What's going on?
Not much. I just wanted to ask you. So obviously, you just started this new position as an assistant coach on the staff of the Skyforce, and just from obviously looking at the roster, following the NBA, following the Heat, some players that really caught my mind when looking at them. Nasir Little, I believe he was a 2020 first-round pick. He's on the roster. Drew Smith, I'm a Nets fan. Drew Smith played for the Nets for a little. He's a veteran. Someone even like Tony Snell, who was drafted, I believe, over 10 years ago. He's on the roster. If you could just describe to me, Jason, what the process is like every day for those types of players in the G League who have NBA experience, who are veterans. Are they still trying to climb to that next level compared to some of the younger guys that are still looking to develop? What's the main difference there? Thank you.
Great question, Connor. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's one is great to have like a guy like Tony being a veteran. He's been through playoffs. He's been on championship caliber teams. So to have a guy like that, and a guy that's still hungry to be better and help a team, and not just only there for himself. You got a guy like Nas, like I said, he's playing with Portland, was just with Phoenix. And he's hungry as well too. And like I said, we have a bunch of guys that are with the team. Right? We've been grinding. I've been grinding with some of these guys for the past couple months, and how much work they put in speaks volumes, and how they get along together on and off the court, and they're willing to absorb all the information like a sponge from us coaches, knowing that we see them getting a call up soon as well too. So we expect that, but we won't be surprised, because we know the work that they have put in on both ends of the court.
Hey, you get to coach some really talented players on the G League team. Connor, again, thank you so much for the call and question. Now kind of working in professional basketball, it's a much different game since even you retired back in 2016. We've seen a lot more load management, a lot more injuries, but again, also a lot more load management. They've now made the new rules, the new NBA CBA, and it's just a lot of free agency, conversations. And I feel like the league is just very different. I do want to talk to you, though, about this whole injuries and load management thing. You're a player who really didn't miss many games due to injury, right? You played 81 games, 82 games in some seasons, 75, 82, played 82 games 3 times, 81 once as well. So you're a guy who's very durable, stayed on the court. What are your thoughts these days on, I guess you could say, just more injuries around the league? Why do you think this is happening? And what are your thoughts overall on some of the load management we've seen over the past few years?
Yeah, I mean, I think the game has changed. It's a faster game. I think for the gift and the curse. I also think some of the workouts that they do now are different as well too. It might be exciting for the fans and stuff, but it's a lot of wear and tear. I think you see a lot of calf and Achilles and all these different injuries as well. But it's also the most athletic that you've probably seen on a consistent basis from top to bottom. So I just feel like when you want that, sometimes it comes with with injuries. I think that the wear and tear that guys put on their body, I think that sometimes they don't rest as much because they just want to get better and better each and every day. I think that the amount of money that you can make now makes guys want to work hard and hard just so they know that they can, they're worth that amount of money, which I get. But I just think that that's why those are at an all-time high. The mental health is at an all-time high, for better or worse. And like I said, I just one of them where it's a tough situation that, it's all basketball, but, if you talk to any person that's a former player or a player now, they all have different type of stories, good and bad. So, it all comes with, as much as, you look at a guy and see their salary and their net worth, there is just comes with that rather than just the money.
What are your thoughts on kind of the raise in salaries? Because basically, since you retired from the game of basketball, it's now been this crazy surge in contracts, whether that be inflation, but just in today's game. I mean, Bradley Beal, I'm a Washington Wizards fan, as I mentioned, signed a $250 million deal a few years back. I don't believe currently that's even a top 10 contract in the NBA currently with highest paid salaries. It's crazy the deals we're seeing all across sports. What are your thoughts on just all of these crazy salaries? We talked about it in college sports, but also in professional sports as well.
Well, I think I was born too early. I'll say that.
A few years, honestly, like really not that far off. Yeah,
exactly. But like I said, everything happens for a reason. I think that it's great that the players get the money that they deserve. I think that for the most part, most of the players that do get their money, they stay hungry. And they get better each and every day rather than the ones that get paid. And that's the end goal for them. So, I'm always curious when I can even ask you a question to where, what situation is better for a player to get a 4-year, $100 million deal and not make the playoffs, or a 4-year, 20 million and win 2 championships?
I honestly just think it depends. Like personally, I would rather have the 2 championships. To me, that would be more remembered. To me, I think at some point, and again, I don't know if you could touch on this, and this sounds wrong, but like I feel like once you reach a certain amount of money, how much more it's like you know what I'm saying? Like once you get to 20 million, like how much really is the difference at that point between 20 million and 30 million in the grand scheme of things, if you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, that's a great point. I think that on rookie deals, maybe the question would be construed a little bit. I do think too, with taxes and stuff, the 100 million is 50 million, and then the 20 million is 10. To me, that seems like a big difference, especially if you're the guy that won 2 championships, but then you don't know how to manage your money, which is
right. That's a key thing as well. I think there's a lot of you see all these stories about NBA players who don't know how to manage their money, professional sports players. I think that's a key thing that needs to be fixed in professional sports, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's another day for another story. But yeah, I think those are definitely things that, you do see some vets that get salty about that because, some of them didn't make the same amount of money and they're way better talented than them. But I feel like you just got to let that stuff go and then just make sure that the game is in a good place and find ways to make money and make that money back.
Jason Thompson, we know you will continue to do great things with the Skyforce. We know, obviously, even though you are employed technically by the Miami Heat, I'm sure you are still cheering for the success of the Sacramento Kings, your former squad. Look, again, longest tenured player in Sacramento history. Just congratulations on all your success. We appreciate you coming on. What's next for Jason Thompson, right? When I spoke to you a few years ago, you said how while you were coaching at the time, you said you'd be curious and doing something like this. You'd already been doing some small things to learn how to be an announcer and stuff like that. What's next for Jason Thompson? What's the end goal? Say we do this 20 years from now. Where do you want to be at?
Wow. I would want to see, how broadcasting is maybe, but I think perfect world, I want to be in the front office of the NBA team. That would be ideal. Not sure what job title, if it was general manager or vice president or president or something of operations, but being around the operations of an NBA team would be cool, and being able to cheer on the team and knowing that I had something to do with the team's success.
Well, currently you're with the Miami Heat, and I think they're one of the best teams in management just with the way they run their franchise. So I'm sure that would be a great start. Look, Jason, whether you achieve that or not, you've already done so much. You have no idea how many people would love to be in your shoes, a former NBA player doing what he loves, coaching basketball. You've already done some incredible things. We really appreciate you coming on. What would be your biggest piece of advice for someone who wants to be in your shoes when they're at that point? What would be that key piece of advice to become a player, become a coach, just continue to stay successful in the world of basketball?
One thing, I just think that with no plan, there can never be a goal achieved. And don't ever tell someone that you can't do anything in life. If you have the right mindset and the right people around you, then nothing can be able to stop you. And never have regrets. I think a lot of people may have certain talents, but then they just are scared or of what may happen. But there's nothing worse than of having a bad feeling and having a regret of something that you never tried to do. So try it to the fullest. Don't worry about other people, and keep your circle and family tight always. And like I said, whatever you believe in, religious wise and things like that too, believe in that and just know that it's not easy. But if you put your mind to it, then success can happen.
Jason Thompson, we really appreciate you coming on today for that piece of advice, talking about all the great things you do. We wish you the best of luck with the Sioux Falls Skyforce. We know you're going to continue to do great things, and we appreciate you coming on today.
Chase, man, it's been great. I'm glad 2 years. We're both doing, we keep getting better in the ranks and what we're doing, man. Keep up the great work, man. And I'm sure you're an inspiration to people as well, even though you're so young.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Again, best of luck with all your future endeavors. Hey, maybe we do this again next year. Maybe you're doing something else. Maybe you're still with the Sioux Falls Skyforce, and maybe you're doing so many great things. But again, we really appreciate you coming on. Folks, I hope you did enjoy a live stream episode with 8-year NBA veteran and current G League assistant coach Jason Thompson. Alongside Jason Thompson, I'm your host, Chase Coburn. We will see you next time right here from the Cool Sports Network. Take care. Thank you, guys.